All right, now we're going to talk about where you're going to find your suppliers. So, where do we do that? As we've talked about before, we go to Alibaba, which is the search engine of suppliers, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to just put in our product name. So, think of the most general word that you can, and you're going to put that into the search bar. So, you might not get what you want originally, but that's okay. You can just put in other words, and the goal here is to find images that match, something that looks like what we're trying to get. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get it as close as possible, and then we can ask them if they can get us what we want after that. So we go to Alibaba, put in silicone wristband. If we were getting wristbands, then we'll go up here. Okay, so we are on Alibaba. We put in silicone wristbands, and essentially here are going to be all sorts of different suppliers. All right, so just things that we're going to look for right there. We've got price, we've got the MOQ, minimum order, which is MOQ, and we'll explain that in a little bit. But essentially what we're going to do is, start to look at the images and find something that's somewhat similar. So this one, obviously, I don't think would be a good idea. It's like if they're not even going to take and put time into their image, that's probably a good representation of how they will be to do business with. All right. And if we take a look at this, look, they've only been on here for 1 year. So not the most trustworthy person. And their price is up to $2. It's very high, and they have a high MOQ. Don't know that I would go with that supplier. So if we take a look at other images here, just looking around, I never really look at the right-hand side here. You probably could, but I just don't. I always look at the main images. So I would be looking around and trying to choose one that looks good. So this person has been on here for 15 years. In MOQ is 300, which we'll explain a little bit. So right here is their response rate. So they have a 97% response rate. Now, there's other things like this is, if this shows right here, this shows that they are a gold supplier. Then also over here, this is if they support trade assurance, and we'll explain that in a little bit. And then this will be their transaction level. So the more transactions, the better, because that means they've been proven to be out on Alibaba. So we could go ahead and they offer all sorts of different types of designs and stuff. So this would probably be a good one. Since they've been on here for 15 years, that's pretty good. But they don't have any transactions. That could mean that they're just doing the transactions off of Alibaba. So they don't necessarily have to have a high transaction value because there is a fee to do it through Alibaba. But you could choose either one. So we'll take a look at two of them here. So now these are, like I said, these are all products, and they all represent factories, hopefully. We will get into describing that a little bit differently. So I'm just going to show you the diagram here quick before we analyze. So, just summary, we went search engine of products, put in that, and then we see this. But now it's like, which one of these are we going to choose? So as we just explained, you want to have, here's the process if you didn't catch all of that. We're just going to compare these. So we want, in the first, obviously an image that's good. So this is better than this. They didn't put much time and effort into it. Okay, we have the price there. We have the price there, MOQ there, which we'll talk about a little bit. And you just want it to be similar. So this is similar to what we're trying to make, as they have the ability to, kind of go down there, but they also have the ability to add ink on top of it, so that would match. So that would match what we're looking for. Then now what we're doing is we're trying to analyze the suppliers. And as we just said, so here's this, we'll put this down below. So essentially we want someone who's been doing it for over a year. And you want them to have, we didn't mention name, but you want them to have somewhat of a similar name. And then we'll go in and analyze the factory. So the whole point of this is we want to get a factory. We want to get a factory versus a trading company. Because a trading company, I'll just quickly explain this before we analyze the listing, because that's what our whole point is. They're just a middleman, okay? So maybe they have an office in Hong Kong, and you're not actually talking to a supplier. You're just talking to some guy who's just getting some products from you. And when you use a middleman, essentially he doesn't really care. He just wants to make a sale, and he's not necessarily looking for your long-term business. He might be, but at the end of the day, he has to make money too. He or she has to make money also. And so now you're not going to get the best price, and you're not actually building a relationship with the factory. They are. So you're not getting you're not going to be able to get as many good things. So maybe you want it to be, maybe you run out of stock and you need it to be made faster. Well, that's probably not going to happen with a middleman. Okay, let's say you want to negotiate other things. You ever played that game of telephone? The message can get really, really distorted fast. And so you want just that direct contact with that manufacturer. And so that's our whole goal here. And now we'll go ahead and show you how to choose that. And then obviously we want them to respond fast. And essentially, I forgot to mention this, gold supplier just means that somebody on Alibaba has paid to be a gold supplier, and they did some verification checks to make sure that they're actually a business. But a gold supplier doesn't necessarily mean it is a manufacturer. But we'll go back to Alibaba. Essentially, we would look at this and we would start to look at the listing. Like, can they make a good listing? That's what we want to see at first. And this looks like they give lots of details about this product. So if they give details about this product and other products they sell, that's good, because that means they care. Now, if it's just really, really cheap and they have like kind of standard templates for everything, and then that's not as good, because that just means they're throwing up products and just hoping something hits, and they're probably a middleman or just not a very good factory. But you can tell that they actually care here. They've made an infographic. They say other things they do, the types. So they laser engrave here. They even upsell you on the other things that they sell. That's good, and then they even show you the types of packaging that they have. So this makes me trust that this is actually a manufacturer of products versus somebody who's just a middleman and throwing up random ones, because it takes a lot of time to describe this. But if you only so these people, they only sell wristbands and certain like related things. So they put in the time and the detail into trying to sell you to do business with them. So this is good, because they're not just throwing up random stuff trying to make money. They explain everything really in depth. That's good too. But we'll be asking these all by sending a message to them. But you just, if you're going to spend time going back and forth with someone, you might as well do a little bit of work ahead of time so that you don't have to manage talking to a bunch of unqualified people who you're not even going to do business with anyways. So there's that. So this would probably be somebody that I would contact, and we'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Now, the way that we're going to determine if we're dealing with a factory versus a middleman is we're going to look at, this is the easiest way that I know. Look at what other things they sell, okay? So by clicking on that right there, what we did was we clicked right here, view company profile. Now, they've been verified by a world-leading inspection company. Their main products. So what are the goals here? They can show, so sometimes they can show certifications, but I wouldn't look into that too much. Anybody could fake a certification. And this info isn't that important. But what's the most important is going to be the product categories. Okay. So like when we look at these categories, do they actually make sense? Okay. So it looks like they sell little pins, little coins. What else do they sell? Pins, badges, metal coins, medallions, keychains, patches, labels, lanyards, straps, little golf products. They probably sell like golf tees and stuff like that, photo frames. So these all are around a general area, and you kind of want to think, what would the production be of this? Like, don't think too in depth, but if somebody's selling scuba diving masks and iPhones and all the sorts of random stuff and pet gloves, does that really make sense? Would one factory be able to make all of this? And why would they? That's probably a middleman or somebody just trying to sell, just anything. So I would not go with that, but this makes sense. Like, try to envision a factory in your head. Would it make sense for them to be making this? Yes. Did I say it a lot? Yes. Because that's just how I vet people. Okay, so this would be a factory that I would spend some time to talk to. Okay, if we took a look at another one here, just really quickly, this one, since they did have a high transaction value, that means it's good. So essentially, they even made a video of theirs. That's another added bonus. They stamped theirs, so that means they care, that they don't want other people stealing their photos. They show examples of other stuff. This would probably be a good one to talk to also. So that's essentially what you use to look at if it's a trading company or an actual company. And then you can always just ask them to. But there's this does have the transaction, and they have 350 transactions with $190,000. Good response time. There's even reviews. So that's just everything to increase the the trust, because we're just trying to trust that we can send money to them. And if you use just one quick touch on that, if you use a very strategic way to go about this, it's not the odds of getting scammed or them just taking your money are very low, and you'll see that in a little bit here. So now we'll go back to the diagram. So going back to the diagram here, essentially we just had these things to vet that they were a real factory and not a middleman. So now what we would do is we would contact them. If they have similar products, they look like a good person to do business with. Now we want to see, okay, are they really a good person to do business with, or did they just put up a really good listing? And that's what we're going to do, is we're going to send them a template. And we'll go over this more in the intermediate course, but this is just generally so you get it. And you're basically going to ask everything you want to know so that you could get that idea in your head and make a product that matches that. So basically, we're going to ask them stuff about price. If they could, we'll send a description of what we're looking to get. So maybe we'll write a picture or a drawing of what we want, or just some form of description. We'll also ask if we get a sample. And also the other thing is, you want to send this to multiple suppliers, because you don't want to just deal with one. When you look at multiple ones that are qualified, you can see which one is the best. So we're going to send that template to them. And then what we're going to do is see how they answered. And our goal here is to just qualify them. All right, if we send them a list of 10 questions, did they answer all 10? Okay, if they can't answer all 10 questions, then they probably can't get your product right, okay? Or maybe they could, but I don't want to trust that, my hard-earned money, and when I'm just getting started with somebody that can't even answer a list of 10 questions, okay? Did they answer fast? You don't want to be waiting a week going back and forth, like emailing me. It might take a month. Don't email me. All right. Say that. Do they say that they can meet your specifications? Is it a reasonable price? Price isn't the most important thing here. What is the most important is going to be product quality, because at the end of the day, people are buying your product on Amazon, and you're trying to get that idea in your head into reality. And so whoever is going to have the best product, as long as it's profitable, then that's going to be the person that we choose for. So we'll get into all the things that we evaluate in a tiny bit. But this phase right here, we're just trying to choose who are we going to get a sample from. We don't have to choose the final people right here. This is just that first phase of elimination. So we had the first one, then now this is the one, and then we go from there. Other things, are they willing to send you a sample? And you don't want them to charge you too much for a sample, but you will have to pay for a sample, because otherwise people would just go and get free samples for life. And if you just wanted every product in the world, you could just go get free samples. And then, yes, of course, do they say they're a factory? Just straight up ask them. That they could lie about this, but there's another way that we can prove that they actually are a factory. I'll show you that below. And in the intermediate course, if you do your due diligence, you will absolutely get a factory. There are pretty easy ways, like, hey, let's get on a Skype call right now and show me your factory. Walk around in it. All right? Like, it's as easy as that. But you wouldn't do that until the very end, and if you were still questioning if they were. Then, were they professional? Now, they're not going to have the best English necessary, and that's okay, but the better the English, that is a good thing, because you are going to be going back and forth with them, especially if you have a lot of needs and specifications. The better the English, that's going to make it easier. So, if they suck, if they can't even answer those 10 questions, move on, all right? Basically, if any of these aren't met, you're going to say no, all right? Except the relatively good English, that one is the one where it depends, but you want to make sure they're professional, they respond fast. So if that all matches, then we're going to buy a sample. It'll cost about $35 to $70. Hopefully 35. And then what we can do, don't worry about this, because we can just send and ask when we buy the sample, hey, could we have this put towards our first purchase? And you get all that money back when you make a purchase with them. Every good supplier should allow you to do that. And if they don't, I've never heard of one that doesn't. So now we've talked to suppliers. Maybe we gather 8 good ones, and we find that there's 3 that we want to get samples from. Okay, so now we are going to evaluate it. So the samples are going to come in about 2 to 5 days, and then we can start looking at them. Now, how do you choose which one was the best? Okay, look at the actual product quality. That is the most important thing. And which one do you like the best? Okay, and then when you go to that, if there's one that's way better, go and negotiate to them. But if there's 2 that are similar, well, then now you're gonna have to kind of choose, go back and forth, and then who was the most professional and who had the best product. And then obviously it has to be profitable, but don't just choose the lower price person, because price is not the most important thing. Product quality is. And oftentimes if it's way cheaper, then that's dangerous. Okay, you want it to, they need to make money too. And if they're cutting the price way lower than everybody else, you're probably paying for that by having cheaper quality. So I guess one other thing is when we send that template out, and you'll see it, we make sure to make it clear to them that we want a good product. We don't want the lowest price. We want the best product. All right, great. Now, once we've done that, they can meet our specifications. We found that they're good to deal with. Well, then we negotiate, okay? So how are we gonna do this? Well, we'll go back and forth, and we're not just going to go on price, all right? Price is important. We need to make money, but they need to make money. And price is the hardest thing to negotiate. The other things that we can negotiate are things such as MOQ. Now, we said we would talk about this later. The later time is now. That's essentially how much do you have to buy? We'll be able to probably negotiate lower than they said, because we could just say, hey, this is a test run, my boss. Essentially, another thing I forgot to mention, we kind of say that we're the purchasing manager and we're trying to convince our boss. And we also say we have other people and we like theirs the best, but their boss likes the other one better, so that now that you feel like you're on their side, but I need you to help me convince my boss to go with you guys versus the other ones. And we'll be able to negotiate the amount that we have to buy lower. Lead time, basically we're going to try to get this made faster, because we don't want to wait a year to get our product made, obviously. Generally it'd be about 30 to 60 days for production, depending on how complex it is. Sometimes you can get 15, like these braces, because it's not these braces. These bracelets would be about 15 days because they're easy. All right, and then returns. So other things we can negotiate on are like, hey, when we get returns, if the product is bad, will you guys reimburse us for that? They should allow you to do that, because if they don't, then that's kind of them admitting that they don't have good product quality. And so that's how you win that one. And then obviously we want to ask them to hold them accountable. We just say, will you allow us to do inspection before we pay our 70%, which we'll get to payment in a second and explain that. But essentially, we're just saying, hey, before we pay you the full amount, we're going to get an inspection done to make sure, by a third party, to make sure that it meets what we've agreed upon, so that way you actually get what you pay for. Then the last ones, obviously stickering and packaging. Those are easier to negotiate, that you could get maybe some better packaging and that they'll sticker everything for you so you don't have to do as much work. All right, so we found a good supplier. We negotiate and we get a deal that's profitable and great. All right, okay, now we go ahead and pay. So how do you pay them? We use Alibaba Trade Insurance or PayPal. And the way that it works is you pay 30% when they're going to manufacture it, and then you pay 70% once you get that inspection done based off of what you guys have agreed about. So you make it very clear with pictures and descriptions talking about the product, like what type of material is it, and all that other stuff, just so that you know what you're getting. And then you take that, and we can use Alibaba Trade Assurance or PayPal and pay that. Every good supplier should accept this on the first payment. Now, you're going to have to pay about a 3.5% fee, but it's worth it. Why? Because you get insurance. So by writing that good product description, we have that. And then now if they send something to us that doesn't meet that, like let's say you didn't do an inspection, what I suggest you do, but let's say it's a $700 purchase and a $150 inspection doesn't really make sense, then at least we have this really well-written inspection with this really well-written terms, and then we get insurance through these. So if they send us something that's not that, we get our money back and they get their money taken away by these. So that's how we know we have a good supplier. If they're willing to do that, that means they want to actually provide the products that you've described and do business with you, because they get their money taken away if they don't do that. So that's how we assure that we don't lose our money and that we have a good supplier. Once we've done that, that optional inspection, I suggest you do it, but if it's a lower price and it's pretty hard to mess up, you don't. But now it's going to get shipped. So I suggest that everybody on their first shipment, you get it shipped to your house, okay? You're going to go and you're going to inspect this yourself, even if you've already gotten the inspection, and you're going to send it into Amazon. So basically, if it's smaller, which I suggest you do on your first order, you can literally just have it shipped by DHL and it'll come to your house just like when you order from UPS or FedEx. All right. And it's not like you don't have to deal with cargo and ships or any of that stuff. It just comes to your house. All right. And then now it's really easy, and you just ship it into Amazon, and you learn kind of how this whole process works yourself. Like, you actually inspect and make sure things look the way that you want it, and learn the process from going from factory all the way into Amazon yourself. And then you automate it from there on, where it just gets sent to Amazon. And that's where that inspection comes into play, because even with good suppliers, you want to make sure that your products are getting to Amazon correctly. Yeah, that's the whole process. I'll do a quick summary here. We go to the search engine of products, Alibaba. We put in our words. We find products. Which do we choose? Well, we choose the guy or girl who looks close to us. And then we make sure that they're a good factory. They sell things that make sense. And then that they're a factory, not a middleman. Does it look like they could do it? Does it look like it's going to be profitable? Yes, we talk to them and send a template, which is going to now filter it down. So in top, we had a lot, we filter down, and then now this filters down to the best, get about 3 that pass this, and then we get samples from them, and then look at these samples, and then choose, maybe your top 2, and negotiate, and put them against each other, see who's the best to deal with and who's going to give you the best deal, but also the best quality and just the overall best person to do business with that you can make money with and that they can too. And then we negotiate, get very clear about what we want, that we can do it in a protected way and that it's going to meet what we want. And then it comes to us. We pay them 30 up front, 70 at the end, bring it to us, ship it into Amazon, and then you're ready to make a listing. So that's the whole process. It seems kind of scary, but it's actually not. It's just at every single step, there's a couple things to look out for, and none of the decisions are hard. It's just knowing all the decisions to make, and here they are. So let me know if you got any questions. And then, like I said, go to the intermediate course if you want a more in-depth on this, and I do suggest, because finding a supplier and getting your product is the most important part, other than making sure you're going and getting the right product in the first place. But by doing these, finding a good supplier and finding a good market, you're 90% of the way there. Now the rest can always be changed and always improved over time. But these you can't unmake the product, and you can't unchoose the market. All right. So while your product is in the air, you're going to be making your listing, getting things good to go. So we're going to describe that now, because your listing is the next most important thing, because that's what people see and decide to buy. So we'll go on to that now.